Hi lovelies, welcome back to Lifestyle Chapter. Today I'm going to share with you how I make my homemade shepherd's pie. It is a simple but delicious recipe and it's enjoyed mostly during occasions. So let's get started. Here are the ingredients that I'm using for this recipe. I have my ground beef, I have tomato puree, tomato paste, my frozen vegetables, and so that is how it's going to start with. Here I am working with 2 pans on fire. I have put butter in both pans. I'm allowing it to heat and melt. Then I get started. In one pan, I'm adding in my chopped onions, which I'm going to let it caramelize for some minutes. So I'm stirring everything up nicely together. And then allow it to do its job. So in the other pan, as you can see, the butter is melting as well. And make sure it's quickly melted. And that is going to be the pan for my ground beef. So I'm going to add in the ground beef. It is a little bit frozen because I put it from my refrigerator. I allowed it to thaw, but it was taking a longer time. So I broke them into pieces and then I'm added into the pan and then allow the heat to melt it down more. So I'm stirring it nicely so it can cook or fry faster. I'm doing this because it depends on how you want it to be. Some people will love to do everything in the same pan, but for me, I would love to always do it in separate pans. So it's okay if you want to do it just in one pan, you are good to go with that. I just wanted my vegetables separately from the beef. That is why I do this, but it is very okay if you want everything combined together. So I'm trying to make sure my onions are caramelized. It seems it is not all through, so I'll allow it to be on fire for a couple of minutes. So in all, it is taking about 5 to 8 minutes for it to get caramelized. So back to the ground beef. I'm checking on the ground beef to see if it started cooking nicely, which it has. So I'm continuously stirring it nicely. To that, I'm going to add in some salt to taste, to give the beef some taste because it doesn't have any salt in it. So giving it some salt makes the beef tasty and nicer. So back to my vegetables. Now it looks like my onions are caramelized and I'm adding in my frozen vegetables. You can use fresh vegetables, which is very okay. Or if you have these frozen vegetables, it makes it quicker and easier as well. So this is what I have and this is what I'm using. So I'm going to stir everything up nicely to combine well with the caramelized onions. And this is going to take about 5 to 8 minutes. To that, I'm adding in some black pepper to give it just a little kick. So I've added in some black pepper and I'm stirring it nicely up together. I want some heat in the recipe. That is why I've added the black pepper, but it's optional. If you don't want it, you don't add it to it. Back to it. It has been on fire for about 5 minutes. I'm going to stir it up again to make sure it doesn't burn on the bottom. Meantime, you have to make sure your fire is not high, it's on medium to low heat, so it can take the time to cook it nicely and gently. So now it looks like it's all done. Back to the meat. I don't know what happened, but it looks like that portion is cut out. I added in my tomato puree and also my tomato paste onto the meat, and I'm stirring everything up nicely, beautifully together. And to that, I'm going to add in my minced garlic. I'll put all the ingredients and the measurements in the description box down below for those who want to try this. And to that, I have here my dry rosemary and dry thyme that I've included in the sauce. I'm going to allow it to cook for about 3 to 5 minutes. And this is going to give your recipe a very nice flavor, and the aroma here is so great. So to this, I'm adding in about a half cup of water because I've added in fresh, that is the tomato puree and the tomato paste. You don't want it to get bitten in your cheeks, so I want it to cook well. That is why I've added in some water. You can also use chicken or beef broth if you want that. That is perfect, but because I don't have that, I decided to use water. And I'm adding in some salt to taste, and then stirring everything up nicely together. So now our sauce is almost done. I'm adding in the vegetables that was made in the other pan, adding it nicely together. And then you make sure you stir it nicely and gently. Give it a nice and a gentle stir for the vegetables and the meat or the beef to mix up beautifully. As you can see already, the color is looking attractive. So I'm making sure everything is mixed up well in the pan. And then I'll leave it on for about 3 to 4 minutes. I'll again taste to see if the salt is okay. Everything looks good. And it shows everything looks perfect. So now I have my baking sheet ready, which I'm going to brush in with some olive oil because I'm going to bake. This will prevent the the recipe from getting stuck in the bowl. To make it easier for you to take it out, that is the best way to do. And here I've added in my mashed potatoes. If you watched my prior video, you will see I made a recipe of mashed potatoes. So this is the leftover of the mashed potatoes that I made for you. That is what I'm using for this recipe. So I'm using the mashed potatoes as my bedding over here, and then I'm going to make it leveled, and I'll sprinkle on some Parmesan cheese. You can use any cheese of choice, which is okay with that. And then I'll top it up with the beef sauce vegetable beef sauce that I made earlier on. So I'm going to add it on top of the mashed potatoes. And here I'm going to make sure it is leveled nicely in the baking dish. This is how simple this recipe is. It doesn't take a longer time to get it done, and it is simply delicious. And this recipe is most of the time made occasionally, and I bet you your kids will even like it because it tastes so great when it's done. So now what I'll be doing next is to add the rest of the mashed potatoes on top of the vegetables and beef sauce. Interestingly, it looks like my mashed potatoes will not be too thick at the top of it because my family members did justice to it, and before I realized it was almost gone. So this is how it's looking after leveling it up on top of the beef sauce. And then I'm adding on some Parmesan cheese again, and this is going to give it that flavor and that taste. And I bet you when you try this, you will do it over and over again. So look how it's looking beautiful over there. If you can see, that is so gorgeous. I'm going to put this in the oven, but before then I'll put it on a tray to make it safer and easier to lift it up. So it will be in the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes on 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And here you are. Our shepherd's pie, it's all done. It's smelling so great. And I can't wait to have a taste or a bite of it. So you can let it cool down. I've made it cool down a little bit before holding the dish. So be careful when you bring it out of the oven. You don't straight up hold the dish because it's super hot. So what I'm going to do is to take a portion of it. Around this time it is still hot in there. So with the cheese and everything is going to be soft. So you wouldn't get the right shape just after you bake it. But when you leave it overnight or you leave it for some hours, you will get the actual shape that you need. So this is how it's looking. I can't wait actually. I can't wait to taste it. Look how beautiful it's looking right here. How gorgeous. Lovelies, I hope you try this recipe and then you see for yourself how this is, and it's so easy to make. I hope you enjoy watching, and then if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching. I'm garnishing it with some fresh parsley, and I can't wait to taste. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.